I need to get some information because I promised Todd that I would mention the promised Todd that I would mention the Indiegogo.
Oh wait, who is an Indiegogo?
Alpha
Geeks.
Okay.
They're trying to upgrade their equipment, so I need information.
I don't know why I haven't looked at this and I've known about it for a while.
They've got like $470 when I checked last so far.
Oh, excuse me. Wait. Come again?
They've only got $470 in so far, but it's only been open like 2 days in their Indiegogo campaign.
The Alpha Geek Radio expansion is at 2,500 right now.
Oh, really?
Okay,
yeah.
Then.
Yeah, that's why I was like, are you sure?
Well, how the hell did I get that wrong? My bad.
It's over. Oh, this is from 2014.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
sorry.
a Phase 2 one.
There's a new one.
God.
You scared
Google
me for a second. I was like, did I read it that long?
No, Google has failed me.
Yeah, according to this, it's at $417. Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
I was like, how the hell did I get that wrong?
Hopefully that'll go up once they get the power of like Brian Brushwood or Tom Merritt.
I was going to say, Diamond Club basically needs to talk about it and they'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Also, there's nothing on the main site that seems to mention it.
I think he's trying to get word of mouth to start out with by making use of everyone who's on Alpha Geek bringing it up.
What is this grumpy cast? I feel like this is something I should be on.
We've had Hammond Chamberlain on before.
Yeah, one of the perks is you get to be on Grumpy Cast.
Were you on that episode with Hammond Chamberlain, Matt?
I don't remember. That was a lot of beers ago, Dave.
All right. For everybody listening on Alpha Geek Standby, we're about to start the actual show momentarily. Hang on. Pants on, people.
I am not wearing pants.
Pants on? It's podcasting. Why do you wear pants? I'm confused.
Yeah, last time I checked, this wasn't communist Russia.
Okay. I found it. Does somebody want to do be the representative talking about this Indiegogo campaign? Because if I have too many windows open, my computer just slows the hell down. So, Corey,
I can try.
okay.
Here, I got it.
Chris, do you want to do it?
I have to actually read it some.
Well,
I can.
You guys can do it together.
I put the link to the Indiegogo in the chat.
You beat me to it. I was about to do the same thing.
I wish there were seconds on that so we can know who got done first.
Oh, you got done first.
Okay. Looks like all the levels are great. Chris, before we start, any questions about the podcast?
I think I'm good. I listened to a couple back episodes to figure out what all was going on. I enjoyed it, so I'll have to keep listening.
Thanks. Tell your friends, your neighbors, your dog, if you have a dog. Tell complete strangers. I don't care. We appreciate it. All right, so if you can, turn on your microphones because we have a little produced intro, and then we'll start. So stand the hell by. As soon as I find the soundboard. There it is. Here we go.
This is Alpha Geek Radio. Visit tunein.alphageekradio.com to learn more.
The following is a presentation of GalacticNetcasts.com.
Attention, Galactic Collective. The Sci-Fi Geeks Club is next. Please, stand by.
You can take part in the podcasts by providing feedback. Send a message to galacticnetcasts@gmail.com. Call the voicemail number at 805-328-3966 or leave an audio message directly on our website, galacticnetcasts.com. We also invite you to join the Galactic Collective. All the information and links can be found at gncasts.com/Galactic Collective. That's gncasts.com/Galactic Collective. Now, without further ado, Hear ye, hear ye! Another meeting of the Sci-Fi Geeks Club is officially called to order!
I'm Dave Nelson, and joining me on the host panel this time around is Matt Stein and Corey Scott. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Better now that Corey's here?
Oh, that's too bad.
Is that creepy?
A little bit.
That's what I was going for.
We discussed this before the actual podcast started, that this may be your full podcast together because you did one partially, and then Matt's computer basically melted down into nothing, right?
Yep, just, yeah. It was a bad day. I was sad.
We just crossed the streams, and you're not allowed to do that.
There's that. Anyway.
I'm confused.
So am I.
If you've ever gone to a baseball or sporting event, Dave, and you've gone to use the urinal trough, and you're facing it, no, it's Ghostbusters reference.
Okay. No, I knew it was a Ghostbusters reference.
Okay.
But
Touché.
pertaining to this, I don't understand.
I don't think you're supposed to have Matt and I in the same podcast, and we're going to find out if that's...
Yeah, we're gonna find out real soon.
You should have done the whole Time Cop reference, and I would have got it. The whole, you're not supposed to occupy the same space, the same person from different timelines. That I would have got.
If ever the opportunity is there, I'm always going to go Ghostbusters over Van Damme.
Okay, all right. Well, it's your choice. You're your own man, Corey. I understand that. I respect that. And you know who I respect even more is our guest this week. He is part of the All Things Good Nerdy podcast. He's also the co-host of the Gonna Geek podcast and co-host of the Starling Tribune podcast from Morgantown, West Virginia. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Geeks Club, Mike Ferrell.
Dang it.
No, Chris Ferrell. God damn it.
That was even better.
That's the first time I've messed up a guest's name before. I'm sorry, Chris.
Oh, it happens. It's no big deal.
Why was I thinking Mike? Who's Mike?
I don't know.
Wasn't that
Who's
from
Mike?
MASH?
Yes. Yes. Totally. Good call.
I think that's what it was. I'm not sure. I'll take it.
I'm establishing early that I am a total idiot. Well, welcome aboard, Chris. Glad to have you sitting in the guest chair this week. We always ask our guests of this. Tell us about your podcasts. You sound as busy as the rest of us with what you're doing.
Yeah, I might have an unhealthy addiction to podcasting, I've realized, because right now I'm doing 4. One's on hiatus right now because our Walking Dead cast's on break until Walking Dead comes back. But the first thing that got me started in the hobby is I do a show with a couple friends of mine called All Things Good Nerdy that is basically we talk about the news and we make fun of stuff and make jokes that we think are funny that everyone else probably doesn't. But it's entertainment.
That sounds familiar. I think that's pretty much what we do here as well.
So I should fit in all right, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, you're already fitting in. There's no gonna fit in. You are fitting in.
Well, that's perfect. And so I guess the other couple ones I work on is there's a podcast we do called the GonnaGeek.com podcast. It's related to my buddy's website that he owns. That is also what our network is. Our whole network of podcasts, all the shows I'm on are part of the Gonna Geek network. So that's like the official podcast of the site there, where we'll run down again news and make fun of things and sometimes self-promote our network. And then finally, because I didn't have enough to do, I do another podcast called the Starling Tribune, which will probably have to be renamed, which is all about Arrow. And since Starling City seems to be getting renamed, I don't think our name works anymore.
Yeah, I mentioned I saw that on the Comic-Con panel when Stephen Amell did his new intro. He mentioned that it wasn't Starling City, it was Star City now.
Yeah, he made a big point of being not Starling, Star City, and I was like, ah, crap.
You had a whole season to prepare for that because that's sort of what Ray Palmer introduced at the beginning of last season. Is I think he was kind of promoting the idea that it was going to be Star City in the future.
And
I figured we'd get there.
Nothing happened after he mentioned that. They didn't mention that again, which was weird.
Yeah, at that point I was starting to think it would be an Easter egg, but it looks like they're going to pull the trigger on that, which I'm cool with because it follows up with the comics perfectly. But it might cause a renaming of a show, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be Green Arrow too, so everything's changing. I'm so confused. Well, welcome aboard, my friend. What we're going to do is we're going to run down the news of the week as far as the sci-fi stuff goes, because we are called the Sci-Fi Geeks Club. But before we do that, got to mention that we are live on Alpha Geek Radio. And Alpha Geek Radio, Todd is a really cool guy. He let us on his network to stream our audio and video. And he is trying to upgrade his equipment to get even more shows on the network and to make it easier for hosts and listeners and viewers alike to discover their show and start their shows, because it's kind of a weird, janky process to get your shows streaming on Alpha Geek Radio. So he has an Indiegogo, or Alpha Geek Radio has an Indiegogo campaign running right now. And I know two of you have the information in front of you. So maybe as a team we can kind of go over exactly what Todd and Alpha Geek Radio is trying to do and what the money is going to. So who wants to kind of start it off?
Not all at once now.
All right, so the initial goal the money will buy is 3 servers to replace the sketchy hardware that's currently driving the simulcasters on channels 1 through 3. And I become a big Alpha Geek Radio fanboy, and you can see that there are definitely times where you're seeing a show is supposed to be live and it's broadcasting, and then it kind of the live feed just sort of crashes out for you. And it would be nice to have more consistency, so when I'm sitting down at my desk in the morning and ignoring what my normal job should be, I can watch the morning stream and not run into issues.
So I guess the big takeaway is there's benefits for fans, there's benefits for the hosts. So we should probably say what's good for us is it makes it a little easier for us as hosts on Alpha Geek Radio to be able to get our stuff online for you to watch. It's not super difficult, but it can be problematic sometimes.
And you guys on your podcast, do you stream all your shows in Alpha Geek or just a couple of them?
We're just streaming a couple of them right now because there's only a few of our shows that do live broadcasting. The rest of them are pretty much just Skype record on the back end and then put out a produced podcast.
Got it. So where can people go to contribute to the Alpha Geek Radio Indiegogo campaign?
So to make it real easy for you, they did a tiny URL. So go to tinyurl.com/alphageekupgrade, and that'll take you right to where you need to go to take a look at everything they're trying to do this time around for upgrades to the site and the servers.
So everybody go there, contribute a little bit or a lot if you can afford it, and it'll make the network so much better for everybody all around, and we thank you in advance for doing that.
Yeah, their goal right now is $3,800. They are at $417. That's 3 days in with 27 days left to go. So
that's definitely doable.
Absolutely.
Oh, that definitely is. And there's some really good perks left on there, too, for people that want to get some cool perks for donating towards a good cause.
Yeah, there's like appearing on other people's podcasts, right?
There's that, and some of the other voices of the network will record like your voicemail greetings and stuff like that. The one that's got me intrigued is Jerry's going to do one as Captain Morgan if you could put $50 towards the campaign. Now, if nobody from work ever called my cell phone, that would be a great thing. So I don't think I could do that one.
There's also some art commissions from Joel Duggan, who's been a guest on the show here before, and Len Peralta. So there's some really cool stuff in here. There's a Big Johnson art commission as well.
Yeah, that's a big commission from Scott Johnson. He's doing a ton of stuff with that one, which would be awesome.
All right, so contribute and get those perks, and let's help Todd and Alpha Geek Radio upgrade the equipment. Together we can do it. Let's team up like a superhero team and get it done. All right, this was a last minute addition to the news this week. I had to replace another story with this one because it begged to be talked about. And I have to thank Corey for doing this to us, making us into a political show.
Thanks for the blame.
Yeah, it's
must be easier for you to get away with it up there in Canada.
Although Ted Cruz is Canadian, originally Canadian, so
I'm sure all your folks up there are really happy to claim him.
Yeah, you're super proud, I'm sure.
You know what's really interesting about the difference between U.S. politics and Canadian politics? Number one, it's not nearly as mean, and when it is, it's very polite. And then number two, there's hardly an election season. Like they'll call the election, like the prime minister can call the election at any time. At any time, they can say, "Oh, we're going to do the election. Let's do it next week," and they do it next week, and the election's over with. It's really kind of odd. Chris, I'm an American originally. I'm recently a well, I'm trying to be an immigrant to this country. So it's interesting from an American perspective going into a different political system like Canada does.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. So the other Canadian connection is William Shatner is Canadian. So there's the other connection. Corey, you brought this to my attention. Do you want to just run down the story?
Yeah. So Ted Cruz, I don't know why, other than to just try to get some people over to his side who might not be normally looking at him, compared Captain Kirk to a Republican, said he must very obviously be Republican because he's sort of the working man. He's a passionate fighter for justice, comparatively to Picard, who he feels is a cerebral philosopher. And yeah, just kind of claimed Kirk in the name of the Republican Party. And Shatner pretty much shot that down. And a lot of people already were, but Shatner was the voice of, like, hey, I played the character. I think I might know him a little bit better than you. And said that, of course, part of the whole point of Star Trek was that it wasn't political, that it had done away with those kinds of infighting politics, and was to basically, try to unite the Earth and then to go explore space. And then Shatner also goes on, plus I'm Canadian, I can't even vote in your American political system.
That's the best part.
And I think it was kind of a little dig of, and you shouldn't be able to either, but no, that's fine. There's been no word from Picard yet to say whether or not he's actually a Democrat.
I hope to God Patrick Stewart weighs in on this, because I could see him coming off with a really, really good retort.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart has been so vocal on so many things, and is just, especially his relationship with Ian McKellen, when you see those two pair up. He hasn't just been one-sided, though. He made a statement a few weeks ago that was kind of about whether or not businesses should be forced to service weddings for gay marriage and things like that. And people were surprised at what he said, but I think his point was he wants people to be able to choose to do the things that they decide they want to do. But yeah, I think it's very likely that a lot of people in Star Trek, which was, one of the first shows to prominently display black actor or black actress, and then have an interracial kiss on the show, or the very first show to do that, it seems likely that they're going to lean more towards the left.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? It doesn't really matter either, just because as a president, as a leader of a party, or the leader of a country or whatever, you need to have traits of both. You need to be a strong leader, and you also need to be willing to be a philosopher and think about things before you react, and be more of a joiner than a separator, if you know what I mean.
That's how I'd like to see things. The other thing I think of is you're trying to politicize fictional characters in a fictional society in a fictional future. Why? Why is that your go-to? If you can't really state what you're about and put it in a way that people of today and the here and now are going to really understand it, then you're probably not going to do yourself any favors by doing this. When people have put Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street into the they must be a gay couple thing over the years, the people from Sesame Street basically said they're puppets. They don't have genitalia. So you really don't need to place that on them. And it's the same thing here, is that you can't win this because, unfortunately, Roddenberry's passed away. He can't tell you if Kirk was or wasn't a Republican or a Democrat or any political siding. So just move on.
Yeah, and who cares anyways? It doesn't.
Yeah.
Really... Chris, Matt, you guys any final thoughts or initial thoughts on this?
I got part of what he wanted, at least, is people are talking about him, whether it's good or bad. At this point, I guess that's all people really want, is to get some press. Just look at Donald Trump, for instance.
Oh. We're trying not to.
Yeah, I'm sure Donald Trump is going to tie in into this debate as to whether Captain Kirk is a Republican or not soon enough. So stay tuned.
I don't want my sci-fi heroes to be. I'm trying to translate the whole John McCain thing into a sci-fi thing. Okay, here it is.
I like captains who didn't let their friends die from radiation poisoning.
I like
They're dead, Jim.
I like captains who didn't see four lights.
Oh, nice, nice pull.
Because he was actually held prisoner by the Cardassians. Actually,
It's one of the best episodes of TNG.
yeah, that and the Walls Fell episode.
Darmok and Tanagra.
Yeah, Jalad at Tanagra and the Walls Fell.
Mm-hmm.
His arms wide open or whatever. No, I don't know. I'm mixing.
The Creed song?
Matt, do you have any feelings on this? I know that you're not really a Trek fan.
No, that's why I just made a Creed joke in the middle of your.
Oh yeah, okay. I was. You know how when somebody talk or when you talk or make somebody says
The
something.
collective silence made me feel like an idiot. So thanks.
You brought up Creed, so it made me automatically want to shut down.
I have a picture of Scott Stapp on my phone that I randomly send to my friends. It's his mugshot. But
You,
it's
sir, are an evil man.
I got really So I got really drunk in Kansas once, and myself and two other friends started tweeting at Scott Stapp about how much we hate child support. He never responded.
Oh, that's really funny.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, he owes a lot of back child support.
Oh wow. Okay. I didn't know that. I knew that he was pretty messed up. I mean, he's been messed up for a while now. I didn't know that about child support.
It's probably from listening to all that Creed.
Yeah.
I would go nuts too if I had to listen to that garbage all the time.
All right, you guys ready to move on? Let's tackle this next story. The Lone Gunmen set to return to the X-Files. This story broke a couple days ago, and it really took off today. I saw a lot of people tweeting about this and Facebooking about it and stuff. The conspiracy theorists trio will appear on Fox's 6-episode event series in January, and apparently they're gonna figure out how they didn't die, because the last time we saw the Lone Gunmen, they died on the X-Files. So they're coming back, and apparently there was a season 10 comic that was executive produced by series creator Chris Carter, which actually revealed that their deaths were faked. So maybe they'll use that excuse or that explanation.
Now, do you think they'll just go on without even saying anything about it? Like, it happened in the comic, and so we don't really have to mention it. If you want to know, go read the stuff from, I think it was IDW that published it.
I believe it was. I didn't read that comic, so how did they reveal it in that, I guess, is the question. Is like Mulder and Scully aware they're alive, or is that going to be the big reveal in the miniseries? I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't reading the comic either. Mostly because I was protesting because the Lone Gunmen were dead.
Yes, same thing here, and ironically now they're not.
You know, it's
Who'd have
funny.
thunk it?
It's weird how everybody loves the Lone Gunmen, but their series failed terribly.
Yeah, they're best as supporting characters, not as main characters.
Yeah, it's like that the Aftermash, you know.
Yes.
The supporting characters as the lead characters just didn't work.
Lone Gunmen love Chachi.
Yeah.
Well played.
No, I love those guys. Who's the Garth-looking one? Which Langley was the short guy, right? The real short guy.
I think so.
I think so. I'm having to really pull my memory here.
Because there was one that was in the suit, very much like a Republican-looking guy. And then there was the kind of the Garth-looking blonde hair, big horn ring glasses. Then there was the balding older guy that was short. And I think that was Langley, or I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I just always call them the Lone Gunmen. Every time they showed up on the screen, that's what I would scream at it.
So apparently the cigarette smoking man is coming back too, and I know for a fact that he died because I saw it.
He died quite violently.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
I hope that he's still dead, and they just like bring him back for like a either like a flashback or the aliens cloned him or something like that.
The only thing I could think would be a flashback, but he's aged a good deal since the X-Files went off the air. So are they going to have to do some fancy special effects wizardry to make him look young like they did Michael Douglas? Or I don't know.
That was amazing, by the way. We're gonna talk about Ant-Man at the end of the show, but I was amazed at how well that looked on screen. The younging up of Michael Douglas in Ant-Man. It was amazing.
It's amazing how much that's improved compared to, like, think what they did to Patrick Stewart in X-Men Origins Wolverine and how terrible that looked on screen when they tried to make him look young.
Yeah.
Just in that time, they've gotten it so much better.
All right.
Which is funny because Patrick Stewart looks the same now as he's looked since.
Yeah, no, right.
If you go back to Dune or Excalibur, Patrick Stewart has not changed at all. He's basically a Highlander.
I think the secret is the balding. I think if you look old during your entire life, as you age, you won't look any older.
I'm in good shape then.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really terrible.
I need to cut my hair. That's the secret, I think. Are you guys excited for the return of the X-Files?
I don't care.
I was waiting.
Honestly, as we get closer to it, I'm getting more excited. I'd been so off the X-Files bandwagon for so long, and now it's gradually coming back to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really did love that show, and I'm starting to get some excitement. So I'll probably watch the first couple episodes of the miniseries, but if they don't pull me back in, I probably won't stick with it, which sounds terrible, I realize.
Well, okay. Just hearing the music itself and seeing the logo got me excited. And then I saw the first little, like, trailer for it, which showed, like, a very small piece of new footage. And then they did, like, they released a really short tease that showed even more of Mulder and Scully, and I was super excited when I finally saw Mulder with his hair cut in a suit again, because he hadn't been the FBI guy for a while now.
Yeah, he's been an ultimate slacker for a long time.
Yeah.
He's been playing writers a lot, and I can relate to that David Duchovny. I might even be able to relate to the cross-dressing David Duchovny from Twin Peaks a little bit more than I can relate to Mulder. But yeah, there's something spectacular about seeing those two characters together again in that classic look. And I think the fact that it's an event, we might have talked about this a little bit the last time I was on, where it's just a few episodes and they get to do those spectacular things. You know, you always had some duds during the season, and you had the really excellent episodes during the season, which were usually written by Darren Morgan, in my opinion. We get to get all great episodes if they do this right, and I think that's very exciting.
It should be very streamlined. I think for me, just part of it is it's been so many years since I last rewatched the X-Files. It's more of a nostalgia thing to me, and I've got a little piece of me that's kind of worried it's not going to live up to the hype that I remember it being.
But you know what? There's so much that's happened since the show was on the air that they have so many topics to choose from, to draw from for these new episodes, and I think they're doing it right. They're using the British model with, like, a shorter season and a smaller amount of episodes. It's almost going to be like how they do with Sherlock. They do the 3 hour-and-a-half episodes. It's almost that model where they can do better episodes because there's fewer left, or there's fewer to do, right? Does that make any sense?
And because the people who are coming in get to put all their energy into it, and they don't get burnt out trying to do 24 episodes. They get to come in and be really excited about, like, oh, yay, we're getting the gang back together. It's like, that's great, now I get to go back home and do my regular stuff.
Well, and I think part of it is they want to prove they can bring it back. I mean, it's been gone for so long, and arguably Chris Carter really hasn't had much success post-X-Files. I mean, Amazon didn't pick up his pilots and stuff, for instance, so this is his chance to come out there and be like, hey, look, I can still put out something people are going to love. So I hope that we do.
Yeah, it's when you gauge the fact that there have been X-Files movies in between the show ending and now that were not hugely successful, that's the only part that kind of makes you think, oh, but I just didn't understand why they chose that particular plot for the film. It was kind of a little off.
So I think they're cashing in on that event thing like you guys talked about. Look, it worked for 24. 24 came back for a 12-episode event, and that was popular, and people got excited again. Granted, it had been off the air a lot less time.
Yeah. But then look at what's going on with Berkeley Breathed bringing back Bloom County.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we're in the middle of like a crazy nostalgia thing with as far as TV shows go. Because aren't they bringing back a couple other like shows that you wouldn't think would work if they brought them, like the Full House thing, right? They're bringing that. Yeah. I can't figure that one out, to tell you.
Twin Peaks is coming back too.
Yeah.
And NBC is working really hard at getting Xena to relaunch.
Which I guess
NBC, what fantastic job they did with Knight Rider and the Bionic Woman.
Well, they're bringing back Heroes also.
Yeah.
It's we can't get Firefly.
What is it? The 1990s? Maybe that will come, Chris, because we're still in the 1990s as far as bringing shows back.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next story. Fastest ship in the universe. How sci-fi ships stack up. This is one of the coolest infographics I've seen in a long time. A website known as where is it? I lost it.
I know it's on fatwallet.com.
It's on FatWallet, but I don't know who made it.
Fatwallet.com put together a infographic comparing two different types of ships. They did the relativistic. Am I saying that right? It sounds weird. Relativistic.
That sounds right.
I think it's right.
Okay, relativistic ships and faster than light ships. So the relativistic ships are all gauged on G-forces. The bottom three, I'll just kind of briefly go over just a few of them because there's a lot of ships. So the bottom three on the
relativistic.
Thank you.
It's a tongue twister now.
Yes. Voyager 1, followed by the Discovery 1 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I don't get, because it went all the way out to like Jupiter, and it's only like second bottom slowest one. I really don't get that one. And then okay.
What's weirder than that is that your number 3, you can tell people it's from Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
But number 5 is the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
That's
so
awesome.
A DeLorean is faster than the lowest 4 spaceships in this.
Well,
that's something that's amazing to me.
That's a lot of G-forces getting up to 88 miles an hour in how much time? Was there a time limit?
No, there was a space limit.
Okay, space. Yeah.
Until it could fly, then it didn't matter.
Yeah. Okay, amongst the top ships are the Swordfish 2 from Cowboy Bebop. I wish Brad was here, because I know that he's a huge Cowboy Bebop fan. Or is that NASA that's the fan? I forget. NASA's Project Orion with a nuclear pulse propulsion, and TIE fighters from Star Wars. That's your top 3. When it comes to faster than light ships, the top 5 are Heart of Gold from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the improbability drive, the TARDIS from Doctor Who, which is basically the power of an exploded star, Planet Express from Futurama that uses dark matter, dark matter reactors with afterburners that move the universe around the ship, and then later on whale oil. I'm not really a Futurama guy, but that sounds really funny.
It was pretty good. I mean, it was near the end of Futurama, if I remember right, but there's so many times it stopped and started, I'm not sure which end.
Why did they switch from the dark matter to whale oil? How did that go? How did that come about? Do you know?
I don't think they could get the dark matter was the problem, so they had to find an alternative fuel temporarily. if I'm remembering right.
Got the same power. Whale oil has the same power as dark matter. That's interesting.
Well, evidently.
What the hell are we doing, human race? Let's harvest those whales. I'm kidding.
You know, I'm impressed with the list because it's got ships from Spaceballs.
Yes.
It's got the ship from Flight of the Navigator. It's got the Last Starfighter ship on here. It doesn't have the Thunder Road from explorers, and that just kind of bums me out. But I don't know that they gave us enough data as to know how fast it could go and what distance it traveled.
Yeah, I was just excited to see some of the ships they had on there, like Eagle 5 from Spaceballs and Spaceball 1, and I love how they try and describe the engines, and when you go to Eagle 5s, it says Liquid Schwartz.
Liquid Schwartz.
Yeah, because you have to have enough information to base your ranking on, right? So if there's a ship and they never talk about how it's propelled or how fast it goes, then you really can't gauge it. You can't compare it to other ships.
But that means every ship past the Spaceball 1 can conceivably go plaid.
Yes.
I gotta watch Spaceballs again, and I'm really excited that they're bringing that. They're gonna do a sequel.
I'd assume the TARDIS would go tartan, but it's different from a plaid.
They'll have to go past ludicrous speed, which I don't know if you guys had seen. Elon Musk, they just added a ludicrous mode to some of the Tesla vehicles.
Yes, that's brilliant. He's such a geek. I love that.
Oh, I love it.
All right, so we'll put the link in the show notes that you can check out the rest of the infographic. Is there anyone your favorites on these? Anyone? Well, you guys already
enjoyed that they added Samus spaceship from Metroid.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I was also happy to see the Galactica on there.
Well, let's not take it too far.
Nah, man.
I was just excited for something that I'm into that showed up on the list.
Matt is our sci-fi curmudgeon, so you'll have to...
Fair enough.
What's actually more interesting is Samus's gunship goes the same exact speed listed as the Slave 1. So now I want to see a matchup between Samus and Boba Fett.
Let's bring it. Let's do it. You know, the U.S. and Japan can do it with those robots. Why not team those two up and race?
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Final story in the news. Arrow. This is Chris. This is totally up your alley, by the way.
I'm excited
because I knew you were on the show. Arrow and the Flash casting news. Echo Kellum will join the CW's Arrow in the recurring role of Mr. Terrific in season 4. His name is Curtis Holt. That's different from his character's name in the comic, right? The first name.
I think so. In the comic, I think it's Michael Holt. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
This character is slightly different too because Michael Holt was a widower in the comic. A lot of his storyline had to do with the passing of his wife, and this character has been talked about that he's going to be the first openly gay character on the show.
Yeah, which is awesome. I'm so happy about that. I really love how they don't have a problem basically, and this is the same way with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and DC's like the movie versions of their properties. They have no problem altering it to fit their needs, right? Because the Flash and the Arrow, they're basing it on the comic books, obviously, but then they have no problem just altering things to fit their needs. I really like that.
Yeah, they're smart about how they alter it because they don't completely redo things. They leave enough things that call back to the classic characters. People don't come in and be like, "What'd you do? I don't understand."
I listened to Major Spoilers podcast, and they were talking this week. Steven Schleicher and the guys were talking about his theory that they are setting up a Justice Society of America show.
Yeah, because we're getting the Jay Garrick version of Flash.
Yeah, that's
over on the Flash show.
Yeah, that's the other casting announcement as well.
Yeah, there's that. It looks like they're setting up some kind of multiverse stuff in Flash, so you'll be able to move between worlds. So you could have a world that has a Justice Society on it.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's too much because they're already doing the Legends of Tomorrow.
So personally, I think I'm a little wary just because I loved Arrow. Season 2 is one of my favorite seasons they had. There was a step back in Season 3. I think a lot of people can admit that. And I think part of that's because they had to split their time between 2 different shows. Now they're splitting their time between, 4 shows? They've got Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Flash, and Arrow.
Well,
so that's a lot of splitting stuff up.
They haven't said for sure they're going to do a crossover with Supergirl yet. And if they do it probably won't be this season.
That's true, but it's still the same showrunners and stuff. So that's where my concern comes from, is you don't have as much time to dedicate to each of those shows now. So I hope that's just me being the overly worried fanboy.
No, I agree. Arrow Season 3 felt like it rode on the idea of having Ra's al Ghul be the villain without really giving a defining storyline for the season. A lot of things just didn't make sense in Season 3 for me, and I kind of dropped out of it. I'm looking forward to Season 4 because it seems like they've regrouped and have more compelling ideas as to what they're going to do with the characters, and they're taking Oliver to a better place, both as a hero and hopefully his relationship with the other characters, like Felicity. She is supposed to be a little bit more lighthearted and not in the darker place that she was last season either. So I'm more excited by that. But you're right. When you split off from one show to the next show, that happened to Joss Whedon with doing Buffy and then Angel at the same time, then going over to Firefly. Angel wound up getting canceled because of that, and Buffy finished up almost without much of his input for some time. So it impacts these shows when the showrunners have to do too many different things at once.
But if you surround yourself, if you hire the right kind of people to fulfill or to see your wishes and your vision, I think you'll be fine. And I don't know who he's got working for him, but hopefully that's the case. Him. It's not really him. It's Berlanti and a few other people.
Yeah, there's a whole group of them that are working on it. So, like I said, I'm probably just being overly cautious. I'm excited to see where they go with all this. I think they've done a better job with the TV universe than they have done with any of the movie universe stuff now.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right,
especially the Suicide Squad, because that's what gave you a movie now.
Yeah. All right, so according to comic book resources, Alexander Calvert will be appearing as the DC villain Anarchy. He's described as a deranged freelancing criminal who's willing to do whatever it takes to impress a potential employer. What was Anarchy like in the comic books?
So I don't remember him from the comics, but I remember him from Batman Arkham Origins, the video game.
Anarchy, there were a couple incarnations. He started out as a kid who wore an outfit that made him look taller and more sinister, but he wasn't necessarily a villain. He was extremely smart, and he could do machinations to kind of pull the underworld to do his bidding, acting as a villain, but actually he was working side by side with Batman for a while, and then they replaced him with another character down the road in a Robin arc. So I'm not sure which version of the character that they're doing in this. If he's working for Damien Darhk, then he's probably going to be considered more of a villain in this.
Yeah, my guess is he'll probably be working for Damien Darhk, or that's who he's auditioning to work for, is Damien.
Yeah, that's. I was guessing that the doing whatever it takes to impress his potential employer, and his employer is Damien Darhk, it sounds like. At least it seems that way.
Ah, good old Dum-Dum Dugan.
That's right, it's the same actor.
Sorry, I crossed the streams there, I apologize.
That's all right. No, totally. Let's talk about one more casting piece. I think people have known this for a while, but Chantel Van Santen is going to be police officer Patty Spivot, who it sounds like is going to be a potential romantic partner for Grant Gustin's Barry Allen. Oh, and one more thing. Barry's getting a change in his costume. It's going to have the Flash logo with the white background, which is very iconic.
That's what I'm wearing on my T-shirt.
Well, yeah, you are. Totally. Okay.
I did not plan that.
Well, just worked out perfectly for us. All right. You guys got any final thoughts on this last story before we move on?
Just that Mr. Terrific is one of my favorite sort of newish DC characters from the last few years. I know this is going to be a slightly different version, but I'm very excited by using the character. I'd like to see the character get more recognition, and I think hopefully he'll be a good ad for the show.
I want Captain Fantastic to be on the show. That's not even a character. It's just something I made up.
Yeah, I was sitting there like, why don't I recognize this character?
I want my dad to be on the show. He could kick all those people's butts.
All right, cool. Well, let's move on to the big question of the week. And this is kind of, I came up with this question based on a story that I had on our website, gncasts.com. We do this thing a few times a week called the Sci-Fi Geeks Sheet, which is basically supplemental news to what we talk about here on the Sci-Fi Geeks Club. Maybe the same stories, but we also add additional stories, and this is one of them. It's a list that the BBC put together, the top 100 American films in American film history. So the BBC ranked what they thought was the top 100 greatest American films, and there was a few sci-fi films on the list, and the highest of which was 2001: A Space Odyssey, came in 4th place. The other sci-fi films that were on the top 100 were Star Wars, Back to the Future, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, The Empire Strikes Back, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and The Dark Knight. Now, the question I have for you guys is, what other sci-fi films do you think are classics enough that should have been on this list, or that could make your own list of the 100 greatest American films of all time? Who wants to go first?
So I had a couple off the top of my head that I was surprised not to see on there. First, The Matrix. Just because of what it was at the time. No, not all three necessarily, but the first one, I think you could argue, especially for when it came out, highly influential. And to this day, I can still watch and enjoy.
Yeah, it was very iconic. I mean, just the way it was filmed, that's just one element of that movie that made it a classic, right?
Right. Let's see, a couple other ones I had in my notes. I had Terminator 2, because by all accounts, that's most people's favorite Terminator. And I didn't see any reference to that, which surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, Terminator 2 is, aside from being a huge hit, was a very good film. I think we lose sight of it now because of the follow-ups and Genesis, which unfortunately I didn't see, but I have no idea how it did comparatively. But Terminator 2 was a big deal when it came out.
You could be fortunate you haven't seen it based off what I've heard.
Oh, Matt is a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator fan. How does Genesis compare to 2?
It's like, well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's like comparing your ex-girlfriend 10 years ago to your ex-girlfriend now. You know what I mean? I try and keep them separate. I like them both. I like Terminator I like Terminator 2 for different reasons than I like Terminator Genesis. I like Terminator 2 just because it was like one of the first action movies I saw and one of the first Arnold movies I saw, and kind of being young and seeing all this stuff blow up, and it was crazy, and now I look back at it and it's nostalgic. Now, Terminator Genesis I liked because it was a decent action movie, which you don't really get decent action movies anymore that aren't dumbed down for dumb people. and I don't want to offend anybody, but action movies to me, a lot of them kind of go along the lines of the Fast and the Furious movies, which are stupid. Like, how many times
popcorn movie.
Steal a bunch of cars? And yes, and that's what they want. They want a movie that people will go to and will pay money over and over and over and over and over and see, and they can make 9 of them because they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They just write some stupid new movie. I digress. Terminator Genesis kind of was like the first action movie that I've seen in a long time that got me excited for action movies again. And I actually finally watched the new Mad Max too, and that was another one that I was like, you know what? It filled my desire to just see stuff blow up and be like, yeah, let's, to kind of get that excitement of action again.
And Genesis also it dealt with some pretty high concepts too, like paradoxes and.
Yeah, like I feel like I probably could have better understood that movie had I done some mind-altering drugs prior. Someone actually drew out the timelines. I saw a picture on Reddit a couple weeks ago, but it was like, I mean, it's really confusing because it starts out its own timeline, then it goes into the first movie timeline, and then it branches off and it's its own timeline, but then it comes back and it's in the third movie's timeline, and it's like holy balls. So you might be better off having never seen the other movies, not knowing that those existed.
So just Terminator 1, 2, and then Genesis.
Well, there's 1, 2, 3 in Genesis.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they dip.
three?
They dip into 3 as well.
Yeah, because in Genesis they go to stop Judgment Day, which is in 2017 in the third one. And I haven't seen a lot of the third one, so I'm a pretty bad person for that. But I believe Judgment Day is now in 2017 in the third movie, which is where also is in Genesis.
Okay.
I see.
So yeah, it's crazy because in 2, and I'm sorry I did cut you off and keep going, but in 2, Judgment Day is in 97, I believe, and then in 3, Judgment Day is now in 2017. So in Genesis, they go back to Judgment Day in 2017.
Okay. Did they ever explain why that changed?
They might have. They didn't in Genesis, but they might have in. My assumption is that the events of 2 changed time. Therefore, Judgment Day was then moved to, because at the end of 2 they take down Skynet.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That
so it
makes sense.
is then moved to the future.
Okay. All right, Chris. So any more you want to add to that list, or is that about
Jurassic Park.
And
I don't know
think
if you can consider that true sci-fi or not. That's the problem.
and that might be the other reason with why Terminator's not on here.
Well, no, this isn't just a list of sci-fi films, though. It's a list of the 100 greatest American films. So there are sci-fi films on here.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If you look over this list, it's very Kubrick heavy, except it doesn't have a Clockwork Orange, which I find strange, and it has Eyes Wide Shut outranking The Shining.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
that's total BS.
I would get Eyes Wide Shut right off that list and put Xanadu on in its place because damn right Xanadu. But that already just makes me find the list suspect.
But this list was written by a person, so it's all relative to what that person feels, or a group of people have decided. It's the same thing if we wrote the 100 greatest American films list. It would be way different than John Bob Next Door.
It's
Quite
subjective.
true.
Definitely.
They polled film critics, and I don't know if they were film critics like actual film critics or bloggers or just people who walked out of movies hating everything, which is probably bloggers. I just know that...
Or podcasters.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like there were things that are definitely missing from this list. It's funny that I know that they're new, but there's not a single Marvel film on here, and I think that some of the Marvel films have been much more enjoyable than some of the other films on this list. But it's all subjective.
You know, Corey, if you were to put together a list, the same list in 10 years, I bet you there would be a lot more sci-fi films on it, and I bet there would be at least one Marvel film on this list in 10 years.
I mean, I will admit The Dark Knight is an amazing movie, and as far as putting a superhero film on here, it does make sense that would be the one to make the list, but I think that with 100 available, there's enough spots to get something like a Guardians of the Galaxy or Winter Soldier on there.
Okay. Well, since you're talking, Corey, what are ones? Do you have any more that you would like to see on this list, or do you think that they missed not putting on this list?
As far as sci-fi, no, I think we've got a pretty good reckoning of things there. I always go for the weird films. You know, I'm always talking about Explorers or Spaceballs or Ice Pirates. What I find most enjoyable is probably never going to be on anybody's top lists.
Yeah, you are quirky that way. Yeah.
I can't help it. I watch movies by myself and cry into a paper towel.
Oh, I have a weird feeling this podcast we're going to do is going to get strange real quick.
Used your cats as a tissue to wipe away the tears?
No, they just sit and judge me.
Okay. Right. Yeah, that's the cat. Cats judge, definitely.
Wow.
All right, so I had a couple on that I thought could have made this list. The first one was The Forbidden Planet, 1956. If you look at that movie compared to other sci-fi films, that came out around that same era, it looks like night and day difference. It's like if you were to even 10 years later, 10 years after that, the sci-fi films look terrible. But Forbidden Planet looks like something that put a lot of money in, or the producers, filmmakers put a lot of money into, which I think they did, and that's why it looks so good. But the writing was really good, and the concept of the film was awesome, and I think it would hold water next to these other films on the top 100 list. Also, Planet of the Apes, the first Planet of the Apes, I think could make this list as well. Do you guys agree?
No, those are both good choices. There's so much stuff that could make that list. That's part of the problem, is they tried to touch every genre over all periods of time. So it's tough.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose. You got to go, okay, let's take one from this genre, one from that genre. You can't be too heavy on a certain kind of genre.
And I think the problem is that most of us here are probably more predisposed to enjoy the sci-fi genre.
Yeah, definitely. And that's I was kind of on the fence to have this as the big question, because, you know, obviously we want more sci-fi on this list because we're doing a sci-fi podcast. But, you know, I just thought, you know, we might have a few additional suggestions that maybe if the BBC might hear this podcast someday, which I doubt, but if they do, that they might consider our suggestions for the next list. Who knows?
Maybe we're just sending England really crappy movies.
Yeah. Come on, America, step up. Let's do it.
I noticed there's no Pixar on here either.
That's true. They make some good movies.
Yeah. You would expect to see like Toy Story or Toy Story 3 or something like that.
Yeah, they have The Lion King, but I don't see any kind of Pixar on this list.
Or Up.
Oh. Yeah, that's an amazing movie.
That movie made me cry, and I'm a
if
man.
it can make me cry, it probably deserves to be on a list of the top 100 movies.
Yeah.
So Matt, do you have any that you want on this list, or think that could make this list?
And I don't know if more than like a handful of people would agree with me, but why not like the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
You're talking my language.
Yeah, or see Biodome. I think Biodome was hilarious, but I don't think it would really make a top 100.
No.
But I mean, Bill and Ted's was kind of, you know.
I think anything with Pauly Shore is exactly why they look down at Americans.
You know what? He did stand up in Appleton in the beginning of June, and it was actually really hilarious. And there's some documentary that he put out. It's actually a really good watch. He seems like a decent human being. He makes fun of how he is.
Absolutely.
Which makes it even better.
He knows that he played a character for a long time, and then eventually the character wore thin, and then he couldn't get work because everyone associated him with that.
Yep, and I think that's what made me like re-like him so much, because he's not trying to play the character anymore. He's making fun of himself for playing the character.
Yeah, I met Bob Goldthwait a while back, a few years back when I was still in radio, and he's a really nice guy, and he's not that Bobcat character that he played or that he did, and he's the same way. He makes fun of the fact that he played that character for so long.
Well, yeah, I can remember even in the early 90s seeing Bobcat do stand-up and realizing that there was a lot more to him than the character that he portrayed.
Totally. All right, so yeah, you have to really take into account that, you know, 100 films isn't very much, and you have to pick and choose, and this is the BBC, right? The BBC has it's a pretty highbrow operation over there. It's like
because they're British.
Yeah, well, it's also like the New York Times, you know. The equivalent, the BBC equivalent in the States is probably New York Times, though it's not the same medium, right? It's TV and radio next to like a newspaper, but to me it's in the same category. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
No, I like the BBC stuff. They've got QI, which is to me the greatest celebrity-led game show ever in existence, and you know, with that on your list, I say more power to you. I look up to you.
All right, let's move on to the geek drink of the week. I think we all need a drink. And somebody mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, let's do a Guardians of the Galaxy drink. Corey, the last time that you were on, were we doing the geek drink of the week?
I don't think so, but I was very excited to hear about the Pangalactic Gargle Blaster that you did in one of the last shows.
Yeah, that sounds really delicious. sounds. I have yet to actually do any of these drinks, but
that's because they all have like some strange aspect to them. Like they sound really good, and then there's that one thing, and it's like,
They are for geeks, and when you start to get to the obscure drinks, I was in a bar in Detroit during St. Patrick's Day one year when I was probably like 9, and they were making Irish screwdrivers, which was instead of using vodka for the screwdriver, they were using blue cream de menthe so that it would be green. And yeah, it sounds very unappetizing. I was very glad to be 9. But that's the point, is you can only get so many combinations with stuff that's going to taste good or sound normal, and then eventually you're going to have to get to the weird things.
Mm-hmm.
And experimentation can sometimes lead to genius.
And you have to make it so it fits the theme of whatever the drink is. And sometimes that you have to use different ingredients to make it.
I don't understand what this one has to do with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, well let me break it down for you. Okay, so it's the Groot beer float. The Groot beer float. Ingredients include 1.5 ounces bourbon, 1 large scoop of pistachio ice cream or gelato,
Gelato,
and root beer. Now I think I understand why it's Groot, because Groot is a tree. So that's where the root beer comes from.
The root beer and also the bourbon, which usually ages in a wood barrel.
Okay, yep. That's why. That's why, Matt.
But the pistachio ice cream is what I'm talking about.
That's what makes it look like Groot.
Yes.
I quit.
And Groot has all those little growths on and everything. He just looks a little bit nutty tasting.
I'm just going to keep drinking beer.
I'm just going to keep drinking.
Okay, so here's the directions if you want to follow along and make this drink. In a tall glass, put your desired amount of pistachio ice cream or gelato, pour a shot of bourbon over the top, then fill the glass with your favorite root beer, drink until the only thing you can say is, I am Groot. I am Groot.
So funny story playing off of I Am Groot. A friend of mine is the singer of a band out of California called Abiotic, and they have a shirt with Groot on it, and on the back it says I Am Brute, because they're like a death metal band. That was really funny, but not funny enough to get my $20.
Have you seen Guardians, Matt?
Yeah, I actually did.
Okay, did you like it?
I did. I was kind of upset I didn't see it sooner, but not enough that I really plan to go see the second one, probably in a timely fashion.
Well, I liked it a lot, but I kind of like Ant-Man better, and let's make that our segue into our recommendations this week. Both Marvel films. I thought Ant-Man was brilliant for a lot of different reasons. The effects alone just blew my mind. Like, I felt like I was on drugs, but I wasn't on drugs. If you guys know what I mean. For those of you who have seen it. Now, let's. Do we want to do a spoiler-free or a spoiler review of this movie?
That's you guys' call. I can do whatever.
Have you, Matt? I'm guessing that you haven't seen Ant-Man.
I have not. I don't really care if you spoil it. I've heard it's good. I plan on seeing it, but when I see it, we'll whatever. So spoil away.
Well, let's not do it too spoilery. Like if something comes out spoiler, then I'll be, fine. But we won't go out of our way to spoil it.
We can dance around it.
Okay. So I really don't know what to say. I mean, the effects were awesome. I thought there's been some complaints that Hope Van Dyne, is that?
Yes, correct.
That's the daughter. That's Michael Douglas. That's Hank Pym's daughter. People said that, or thought that they thought that she should have been given the opportunity to be in the Ant-Man suit, but I totally understand the reason why Michael Douglas or Hank Pym didn't want her in.
No, they explain that very well in the film. They explain his motivations to keep her out of it, although no, they also give us a reason at the end as to why it's okay to have Scott in there, and why he was so adamant not to have her. It comes out with the story. I felt a little bit more of the we seem to get a lot of the girlfriend who's critical of the hero. While she wasn't actually Scott's girlfriend in this, there was that same sort of character beats that we get a lot with Pepper Potts in the Iron Man movies. The wacky sort of charming inventor-ish guy who's getting in the costume and doing all the superheroics, and then the female lead is kind of like, you have to reel yourself in, you have to regain control, you're not taking things seriously enough. I felt that was a little unfortunate, but I see some potential growth for the character in the future, and I'd like to see that explored.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kevin Feige's already said she's going to have stuff going on in the future. I'll leave it as vague as I can in that regard. And I'd read an interview with the director who helped rewrite the script some after Edgar Wright had left, and they actually beefed up Hope's role in the movie. She was much more of a supporting character beforehand, and then they made her much more integral to the story and to the heist itself with this rewrite.
Well, Evangeline Lilly is awesome. Like,
She is.
And she hasn't done enough since Lost. I'm really glad to see that she's back doing something.
There was, I think that she had said something about she was considering retiring after Lost, and then she did the robot fighting movie with Hugh Jackman, which I can't
Real
recall the name
Steel
of
or
it.
something like that, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Or-
Real Steel.
But she talked about, I mean, she didn't really think that she was going to be an actress in the first place, and then she started getting roles in the Lord of the Rings movies, the prequels for those. So it's good that she's picking the roles that she wants to be in. Even if Real Steel wasn't a huge success, it was at that point in time looked at as something that could have potentially been a big summer blockbuster. And obviously you can't go too far wrong with Peter Jackson films. And then a Marvel movie. So she's picking her roles smart if she doesn't want to work a lot, and if she was considering not working anymore at all. At least the stuff she's doing is bigger things than, just going into some stupid comedy with, like, I don't know, any stupid comedy at this point.
Well, and you got to think from a career perspective, it's probably pretty cool to be like, hey, I got to do a film with Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Yeah, who thought Michael Douglas was great in this? I thought everybody actually was great in this. I mean, from Michael Pena, who stole the freaking movie, I thought.
Yeah, I'm not usually a Michael Pena fan, but he was pretty good in this.
Just the whole, like, him telling the stories and then getting out of hand, and Paul Rudd having to rein him back in, and then using his voice over mouthing the people mouthing his, putting his voice into their mouthing the words. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah, it was well done. Stan
Lee. I giggled when Stan Lee came up and it was Michael Pena's voice. It's funny.
Yeah, that was fun.
Who I just thought overall was an awesome, fun movie. Like, we've never seen a heist superhero movie before, right? I mean, this has got to be the first one.
First one I can think of, and I had a lot of fun with it. So Ant-Man, I was keeping my eyes. I wasn't trying to come in with judgments, I guess. I was a little hesitant just because of all the talk that had been going on about it. But I came in and I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it.
Now,
I didn't have high expectations.
Did you think they shoehorned the MCU too much into it, or do you think it didn't bother me at all? Like, it didn't stand out like some people said that it stood out for them. Like, oh, you can totally tell that this was Edgar Wright part, and then this part was afterwards, and they're trying to shoehorn an MCU element into it.
I didn't have an issue with some of the stuff that some people said was shoehorned. His whole incident with an Avenger makes sense because it's a heist before the heist. If you look at a lot of these heist movies, they do that exact same thing, where they have to do something before they can pull off the main task. So it makes sense, and it was a nice tie-in to other things that makes you buy into the fact that, holy crap, he could actually be pretty good at being a superhero if he wanted to be.
And
that scene was both unnecessary and very, very enjoyable. It was not something that needed to be in the film, and that part that he got from there didn't seem to make a lot of difference towards what they were doing. In fact, Michael Douglas had already kind of determined that he didn't even get the part, and then it turned out, spoiler, that he did. But overall, that was a great scene, one, for the fact that it was interaction with Avenger, and two, I think it defined that Avenger better than he's been defined since his introduction, and that's a character that I like a lot, and an actor playing the part that I've liked a lot in that role. So I was very happy to see that happen.
Have you heard interviews with him? Like, he is totally over the top excited to play that character. Like, he wants to be in every single possible Marvel property doing that character that he can be.
That's the best part about the Marvel films to me, is that the people who are playing in these roles seem to love it so much. And you see that with Stephen Amell playing Arrow as well, is that guy is such a brilliant spokesman for Warner Brothers and for DC, because he's having such a blast and he's such a great guy, and he takes all of the excitement of, like, I get to play a superhero on TV, and he brings that to the fans and involves them. And I think that that's something that you can never discount how important that is.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think you see it with Grant Gustin too, just not to the same level as Stephen Amell, because I think Stephen Amell takes that whole fan interaction thing to a completely different level than most other stars out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing it. He wants to do it as part of a wrestling persona, which, I mean, that says a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling Melissa Benoist is going to be the same way with Supergirl. Like, she's already kind of showing those signs that she's super jazzed to be playing that part.
How do you say her last name?
Well, don't quote me on it. I just said Melissa Benoist because that's the way it looks spelled to me, but I have no idea if that's right.
That's how I've heard it said on other podcasts, but that doesn't mean it's right.
I was in my head, I was thinking Benoit.
It sounds like it would be a French-Canadian thing, so...
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on from my recommendation to Chris's. And Chris, you're my favorite person for bringing this up, because I love my wife and I love this show. We can't get enough of the one that you're going to talk about. So what it is?
I'm only 2 episodes in, but AMC in the United States and I can't remember what channel it is in the UK. Channel 4 in the UK have combined to do a sci-fi television series called Humans, which is only an 8-episode miniseries, but the whole premise is, in this world we live in, the new must-have accessory is android-like humans called synths that'll basically do your housework, take care of your house for you. But as the show progresses, and I'm only up through 2 episodes right now, I think I'm really behind, you see that some are becoming self-aware and wanting freedom and things like that, and other people are trying to stop the synths from becoming self-aware or figure out why it's happening. So it's very Asimov-esque, with robots becoming sentient, and 3 laws, do they still apply? I've really enjoyed the show. The problem is, not many people in the United States have enjoyed the show, so I don't know if we're going to get more. The ratings have been pretty crappy on AMC.
It's too bad. I really like it too, and the more you watch it, Chris, and you'll see it here very, very soon, that the deeper the mystery gets, like, there's more revelations to come, and it's going to blow your mind.
And I've really enjoyed the actress playing Anita. I think that she's done a very good job of showing an android that's gradually becoming aware of the fact that something is wrong with what she knows, and she's becoming self-aware. I've really enjoyed that. It's just there hasn't been much promotion for it, I think, is part of it. I was flipping through the channels, and I saw half of an episode. I'm like, this is really interesting, and then watched the full first episode on demand, and now I'm recording them all. So I just wish they'd promoted it more. I mean, it's AMC. They've got really good shows. They generally promote them. They didn't do it here. I don't know why.
The great thing about covering sci-fi for a website and a podcast network is you kind of get the heads up on all this stuff earlier than most people. And I've been a spokesperson for this show for a long time. Like, I've been looking forward for this show for like a year and a half, because it was like a Swedish show first, and then they adapted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like Real Humans, I think, is what I'd seen it called before. I read up on it a little bit, and it was really surprising me, because I've got other friends that are real big on sci-fi programs and TV shows and stuff, and they were just like, oh, I haven't heard of that. I should go check it out. And I'd remembered hearing something about a year ago about this got greenlit. It was going to be AMC and some channel in the UK doing it, but I just never saw any commercials for it, so I missed out. And I hope that's why people aren't watching, and it's not just a matter of them being like, oh, I don't care about this.
And it's summertime, too. I think people's schedules change in the summertime.
That's true.
Yeah. Maybe they'll catch it in reruns, and they'll get enough numbers afterwards that they'll decide to make it season 2.
Yeah, again, with that BBC 10-episode run, it makes it a lot more enticing when you do want to sit down on a Netflix and watch a bunch of shows in a row to just be able to quickly get through the season.
This is one I could see when it hits Netflix that it develops into something bigger, and everyone's like, "Oh, I heard about this, but I missed it," and then it starts to spread via word of mouth. I would love for that to happen.
For those that want to watch it live, it's Sunday nights on AMC.
And I think all the episodes are on demand with AMC too, if you have cable or satellite.
Yeah. All right. Is that all you want to say about it, or do you want to continue talking?
That's all I had to say. Just watch it.
Okay. All right. Watch it, Chris. Chris says watch it, so you better watch it, people. Okay, Corey, what do you got for your recommendation?
Okay, so I've been reading, I'm about 70% through this book called Vermilion by Molly Tanzer. It's published by a company called Word Horde, which is a friend of mine is the publisher.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I got into it. But it's a very good book. I'm a slow reader. I mostly only get to read on my lunch breaks, and that's when I'm deciding to read as opposed to trying to write or do something else. But it's a paranormal western that takes place in the 1900s. So it's in the past as a western, but it changes things. There are humanoid bears walking around as creatures in this world. There are obviously essentially Ghostbusters in this world. It turns into a deeper plot involving a vampire and also, I think, a genie at some point in the story. So it takes a lot of different turns. And the character, the main character is Lou Merriweather, who is a girl who often gets mistaken for a man and has just let her life kind of build with people meet her and react to her as any particular gender, and she just goes with it. But she doesn't necessarily identify as male, but she enjoys being looked at as a guy, partly because of how people treat her. She's also half Asian, and there's a lot of prejudices against being the fact that she's not all white or all Asian. It's very good, very interesting. The prologue kind of didn't quite work for me, and I thought, all right, well, I'm going to try to tough it out and see how this goes. But as soon as the regular chapters start with the main character, it improves dramatically for me, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I don't know what else Molly has written. I think mostly short story stuff. I don't think she's had a lot of novels out, but this book is getting some good attention, which is nice for my friend's publishing company and for Molly as well. And I'm having fun with it. I definitely recommend it.
Vermilion. That's not Vermilion, South Dakota, is it?
No, Vermilion is an ingredient used in some of the paranormal things to use against ghosts and spirits when you're trying to get them to cross over to the spiritual plane.
Okay. I love the fact that it's just this mishmash of different elements, different characters, and different creatures. That's fun. It sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a real blast. I mean, every time she brings in some other aspect, it doesn't feel like it doesn't belong, but it is sort of surprising, like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, but now that it's here, it just feels right in line with the rest of the story.
So I'm actually pulling this up on Amazon right now to put in my wish list to get later.
And they just added an audiobook version of it today.
Ooh,
okay.
Even better.
Nice.
Then I can listen to that driving to work.
Cool. All right, Corey, thank you. Let's round out our recommendations with Matt. What do you got?
It's less sci-fi than everything else, but it's still pretty badass. It's a show on USA called Mr. Robot. It's about a cyber security engineer who at night is like a vigilante hacker.
Sweet.
And he is recruited by Mr. Robot to take down Evil Corp. It's only 5 episodes in, and I just watched the 5th episode before we started this. But you kind of find out like the main character's dad died because of things that Evil Corp did, so it's this really big picture that's evolving, and it feels a lot like Fight Club. Like in the first couple episodes, he goes back to places where he saw people, and it's like empty. So you have to try and figure out if he's crazy, and it's super cool. And just from being the technology person I am, and just kind of my interest in like the dark side of computer security, it's a pretty cool show to watch.
It's a little like Fight Club. It's a little like American Psycho.
Yes.
It borrows from a few different things. It is fantastic. He's not actually heroic in his vigilantism either. He's kind of he knows he's a jerk. He knows that a lot of it comes from paranoia, and just because he wants to take down bad people, not necessarily because he's good or because he's trying to do right by other people so much as just that he feels compelled to do it. Also, there was a scene in, I think, the third episode where one of the guys from Evil Corp hacks a Android phone, and he pulls the memory card out and he pops in a new one, and he changes the ROM for it, and it's completely legitimate. There's been a few write-ups on different tech sites about how that is 100% what you would do to hack somebody's phone, and they show the stuff on there. The hacking stuff on this is very spot on. It's not like what you're used to seeing from movies like Hackers, or I watched the movie Sneakers the other day, which I love, but not really true to form as to what hacking is. This is so realistic. It's amazing.
I did enjoy the part, I think it's in the 4th episode, where they're in the hotel room watching Hackers, and when one guy's like, I've never seen a malware sing before, and it's the scene where they're like hacking the Gibson, and the Da Vinci virus is singing a song, and there's rabbits flying across the screen and stuff. And I love the movie Hackers, but
yeah, absolutely,
because it's garbage.
I wonder
There's
how.
nothing wrong with that.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. I watch Teen Mom, so what do I know?
Have any of you guys seen the CSI Cyber show?
Oh Lord.
I watched the first episode. That was too much.
Oh God, I tried the second one too. I was like, maybe it's just pilotitis. Maybe it's nope. They're gonna put Dawson in everything. Dawson's always a rescue guy, even though there's cops around. Cops are ignoring the baby that's drowning. Here comes Dawson driving up.
Well, Dawson and Lil Bow Wow or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I just cannot take the show seriously, and it's bad. We made it 20 minutes into the first episode, and I deleted it. My wife's like, "Well, I need to watch that." So I'm like, "Fine, I'll record the next one," and then we turn it on. She's like, "Yeah, I don't want to watch this anymore."
That was the smart call. I tried to do the first episode, and I said, okay, that's enough to make a decision, and I have better things to do with my time than watch this.
You know, I always want to give a TV show like a full first season, but I'm like, this is just a blatant disregard to technology, and they just like the overuse of buzzwords, and I'm like, gosh,
I think they opted for Flash over Substance, which is unfortunate because they could have done it really good. They, bring enough experts in, give them the right jargon, tech talk.
Yeah, but what they want to do is they want to create something that the normal person can, digest. The normal person isn't going to want to try and understand why what a DDoS attack is and why it's cripples your network. So they're just going to say, oh yeah, I built in a backdoor and we DDoSed him from his terminal. And I'm like, oh, okay.
There's a scene in one of the episodes where one of the guys is like, oh yeah, I hacked into the elevators here in the building. I'm like, you're in a federal building, and you hacked the elevators in this building for the government, where basically you are now you're going to Guantanamo. You don't keep your job after this. And then they explained another thing using hacking terms by showing a sandwich, and he's like, but this sandwich doesn't normally come with bacon, so I have them hide the bacon in it, and therefore I've hacked the sandwich. Are you kidding me? I have problems with the show. I have problems with CSI shows a lot, but that show...
Yeah. So this is one you don't have to feel bad about quitting. It's a police procedural with no overarching plot. You can know after a first episode if you want to quit. So I didn't feel bad. Normally I try and give 3 to 5 episodes, but here, no.
There's plenty of other great choices on TV right now. Just watch Dark Matter or Killjoys on Sci-Fi, and you'll be fine.
I haven't seen a lot of it yet, but I've enjoyed Killjoys, and I watched the first episode of Dark Matter to see how it stacked up, and I like that too. So yeah, as far as the new Sci-Fi shows, they're a lot like Firefly, but they're still pretty good.
And The Expanse is coming, which looks fantastic. So I think we'll be talking about The Expanse quite a bit on this podcast in the future. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of the Sci-Fi Geeks Club. You can check out the Sci-Fi Geeks sheet at our website, gncasts.com. And while I have Matt and Corey here, we have to mention if you want to catch the brand new podcast that we're working on, that Matt in particular is working on, make sure that you keep checking back on our website, gncasts.com. And if you definitely don't want to miss it, subscribe to our mega feed, and that will come to you. Our mega feed is basically all of our shows on one feed that you can subscribe to and not have to worry about it. So gncasts.com, and go to the subscription page, and you'll be set. Chris, thank you very much for being our guest this week on the Sci-Fi Geeks Club. Before we get out of here, where can people find you and your stuff online?
Just go to GonnaGeek.com. You'll see all the podcasts I'm on. There's contact information for me on there, too, if you want to give me heckle me for anything I might have said in this show today.
Well, we encourage heckling. I mean, good and bad, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Feedback's good. Either
exactly.
way.
I don't mind getting heckled, because most of the time I deserve it, because I probably said something dumb.
Looking back, I don't think anything that you said tonight on this show deserves heckling. I don't think you said anything too controversial. I don't. Can any of you guys think of anything that he said controversial?
It's going to be hard to pick it out from what the rest of the dumb things we said is. So you're like you're the dumb pickles in the stupid bread and meat sandwich of the rest of the show. So,
but you never know.
If we're making a sandwich, I'm going to hack it with bacon.
Exactly.
Right.
You never know with sci-fi though, because you could say something innocuous and discount something that someone loves, and then like, oh, I hate you. Why'd you do that? And I'm like,
why didn't you talk about the return of Fluke, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Next week we're going to have JF Dubois live from Salt Lake City he's going to be at Nerdtacular, so that ought to be fun.
I'm sad I got to miss that one now.
Yeah, so tune in next time and subscribe to the podcast, and don't miss that. Okay, so I'm Dave Nelson on behalf of Brad, Matt, Corey, and Chris. We will talk to you guys next time.
Bye, Dad.